Over the past couple weeks, I have been actually thinking about the No Kings protest. I am not going to pretend as if I know every single thing that's going on. I actually drove through the streets of a New Jersey area and saw the protest live, and I simply just took a detour and went home because I didn't know what it was fully about. Now, in the spirit of transparency, I am not a registered voter. I personally vote for a godly government, which already means I lost 99% of people listening. I do not believe in human government because they're nothing but screw ups on purpose. However, I actually started having a thought about 20 minutes before deciding to record. So today's subject is on the silence of African Americans in America. And from what I keep hearing through the screens of YouTube, is that those of deep melanated skin were supposed to show up and essentially, I'm guessing, begin to riot. They were supposed to begin showing the government who's boss. Just giving a very short answer, very short synopsis. Now, from what I heard, melanated folk, whether of African descent, Latino descent, whatever, have a brand new strategy for disciplining the government. And this also, you could say, goes in line with the whole EBT food stamp situation going on right now. So today's date is Wednesday, the 29th, I believe. So Friday is Halloween. So Thursday, the 30th, Wednesday, the 29th. So that means this whole rioting, looting, violence is supposed to begin this coming Saturday. Now, I had decided, long time ago, long before anyone began talking about the orange guy, that I do not partake in politics. Because to me, I cannot claim to be an individual while simultaneously obeying the whims of the majority. And when I say majority, I'm not talking about majority of the entire population. I'm talking about majority of those that are colored like me. So I would say I'm like milk chocolate if people were to look at me. Some people would mistaken me for being lacking melanin in my skin, and they just think I got a tan in the sun. But in this case, I have this very strange feeling that led to me talking today. So let me get to the point. I think that there is a way to discipline the government without violence, without hacking, without biological organisms in the air. And I think some of you are already doing it, but some of you may not understand the full implications of what is happening with the silent strategy. Now, I didn't think of it as a strategy at first. I just really thought that melanated people were extremely tired of voicing their concerns and not being heard. For example, we told the government back in 2014 that we wanted marijuana legalized, and it still has not been legalized. So that means that all governments, if from 2014 to present, are officially traitors on that end, giving the victory on a silver platter to big pharma and whatnot. I could have sworn there was a section of people that told the government that we wanted, all these chemicals to come out of the food, as in no more GMOs, no more Monsanto, and they ignored us. We told them all sorts of things. We talked about, I think, when I say we, I just mean people who are melanated. We have voiced our displeasure that, as far as I heard, that there was a section of the Asian persuasion who got reparations, but we never did, and our suffering is still going. They ignored us. So now imagine their shock when melanated people do not show up to these protests, because what's the point? I mean, what's the point of us voting if we know our vote if the whole election's already rigged? By who? That's anybody's guess, and I don't want to get kicked off of YouTube, so I'm not going to launch any accusations. But it is my opinion that every election has been rigged for at least the last 50 to 60 years. 50, maybe 60. That's the amount of years I think elections have been rigged. I heard election fraud goes back as far as 120 years. So, anyway. So there's no point in us showing up to vote because we know that that's not going to help. We already know petitioning the government will end up with us getting ignored. They'll play kick the can. So why even bother speaking? But I want to discuss the causes and effects that maybe are eluding the grasp of most people. So to me, I do believe that there is a domino effect to come of whenever we decide no more bullcrap government. And I think it's multilateral. So try to follow me on this. So I think that one of the weapons we have against the government is not just silence. It's intermittent fasting. People are like, what? What are you talking about? Well, I'm connecting it to the food stamp crisis. So I remember being on food stamps about 7 months ago. It's October, so I'm going to say maybe going back to March, maybe April. I remember being on food stamps. And the thing is that I had already trained my body, and no, this is not a pitch for an advertisement. This is real talk right now. So I had trained my body to go from eating 3 meals a day down to eventually 2 meals a day to eventually 1 meal a day. And some days I didn't eat at all. And I felt perfectly fine. I had all these medical issues that were alleviated when I stopped eating. Because what happens to your body when you go from eating and you wean yourself off of food? Well, one, your body will work on less. Hypothetically speaking, I'm not a doctor, blah, blah, blah. You know the disclaimer, you know how it goes. I'm not a professional. I'm just somebody with experience with whole day water fasting and intermittent fasting. Anything you do from this video, you do from your own risk. I am not responsible. Blah, blah, blah. Let's keep moving. So I had trained my body to go from eating 3 big meals a day, where I was never losing any weight, to 1 meal a day, of course, over time. And I started losing weight. Not only did I start losing weight, but I felt less brain fog when I was not eating, which is very ironic. So what happens, and I want you to take a walk with me on this mental exercise. Imagine if all melanated people stopped eating as much food. So what would happen? So let's go down cause and effect in terms of our own bodies. One, your digestive tracts have time to rest. Personally, me, to feel like I've been fully, let's just say, emptied, if you will. I don't want to have TMI, but you know what I'm talking about. If you're not eating as much, you're not going as much to the toilet. If you're not going to the toilet as much, you're not flushing as much. You know what that also means? You're not going to incur a bigger sewage bill. People who have to pay the water companies for flushing their toilet amongst other water needs. So if you're not flushing as much in a toilet because you're not taking in as much things that would be excreted through your southern region at your 6 o'clock, well, what does that mean? That also means that when there's the same supply and less demand, would that not force the prices lower? Because they have to make some kind of deal, because now they're losing money. Now, that's just the theory of how that would go. But let's keep moving, though. So when we stop eating 2 out of 3 meals per day, what also happens? Well, for diabetics like myself, that means our blood sugars have a better chance of coming down because our organs, our brain, all that's going to use more sugar throughout the day. What else could happen when we stop eating 2 out of 3 meals per day? That means your food will stretch longer if you buy the same amount, or even slash your groceries by your grocery budget by about 20%. Let's just give a small estimate. And why do I say that? Because your food will last longer instead of you running off to the store in the middle of the week. There's things that I have from last week. I mean, I still have to eat them because they're going to go bad soon. But there's still things I had for over a week because I was so busy with what I was doing that I never got hungry. I think the hormone leptin is the hormone of hunger. So if you're not hungry and you're busy with something that you enjoy, whether it's reading and all that other stuff, then you're not eating as much because you're so enraptured in what you're doing that you forgot to eat. And that only goes to show you don't need to eat because your leptin will automatically trigger you to go get something to eat when you're legitimately hungry. Not when but that can get confused if you're anxious, if you have a high stress level, that could actually happen. So let's move on though. How else can we discipline the government? You attacked the shareholders' wallets. Again, attack the wallets of the shareholders. What does that mean? Turn your TV off. People say, well, what does that do? One, you're saving energy on your electric bill. Number two is that if we step away from our phones, if we step away from our game consoles, which I already did, I haven't been playing video games in 6 years. I boycotted the gaming industry for their nonsense. But imagine all melanated people were to stop watching TV, were to stop gaming, no more Netflix, cut Netflix out of your wallet, cut Hulu, Disney Plus, cut them all out of your wallet. Because when those shareholders begin patting their pockets and they start threatening the businesses to sell off their shares and plummet their stock price, I guarantee you they're going to start making a lot of phone calls and who knows, maybe some threats. Not that I would ever promote that, but we already know that big business doesn't fight fair. They will threaten anyone to keep their bottom line. We already know this. So therefore, if we were to fast intermittently, eat once a day. I'm not talking about eating little bits a day. I'm talking, unless you can handle it. I'm talking when you have one decent meal a day, not small, not too large, but if you have a medium, large size meal in the morning and you don't eat anything the rest of the day, your digestive tracts now have 24 hours to vacate whatever you put into your body early in the morning. When we quit playing video games, we're saving on energy. When we step away from our phones and they stop, we already know that companies spy on us and take our data constantly. We already know our data is not safe. And no, this is not a VPN promotion. No. I'm saying that if you leave your phone in your room, you're not going to miss anything important. I promise. If it's that important, they'll leave a voicemail. If it's an emergency, call 911. There's nothing important on social media ever. And I mean that entirely. This is just a reminder to myself as well. So when you step away from your phone might still be collecting data. But now when it activates the microphone without your knowledge or consent, what's going to happen? They're going to hear a whole lot of silence. And what happens when all these marketers, let's just assume for whatever reason that they're telling the truth and that all this stolen data is only being used for marketing. When those marketers hear nothing but pin drop silence for hours and hours on end, what's going to happen then? They're going to run out of ideas for how to market to people. When they run out of ideas, they're going to lose their jobs too. What happens when the marketers began making phone calls? Why? Because I believe there are publicly traded companies of marketing firms. When marketing firms begin losing money because they lost free access to free data, that's going to be bad news for them. Think about it. And all of this from the concept of fasting, cutting off what you don't need. You know how many people can advertise to me? Not many. Outside of checking a couple of notifications. I don't use the YouTube app. I watch YouTube through the Brave browser. And therefore, I hardly get any ads. Ever. Are you tired of ads? Get the Brave browser. Again, that's not a promotion. That's not meant to be a promotion. That's not paid. I'm just saying that I would promote anything with an active ad block. Rip the ad revenue right out of their pockets. And when you're not using your phone, turn it fully off. Leave it in another room or at least at a big distance from you. Imagine if people were starting to look within and say, you know what? I'm going to start gaining the mastery over my own body. Time for me to put this phone down and I'm going to go to sleep earlier. I'm going to turn off my phone at 7 o'clock. What happens when they start doing that? What happens is they just lost all that data, hypothetically, because I hear that sometimes our phones are still on while they're actually off. I've never seen that, but you turn your phone off, you go to sleep, and you wake up early, and maybe you read a book or something. People say, why would you want to read a book on something not a screen? One, your eyes get fatigued from looking at a screen all day, and you don't have to worry about your retinas being strained from staring at a screen all the time. Two, if you're not looking at your phone, you can't have your front-facing camera activated to stare at you doing whatever you're doing. I mean, that's just off the top of my head because this is an off-the-dome rant. So I'm telling you that in order to discipline the powers that be, you have to cut out as much of their influence as possible. Sometimes I find myself bored when I'm not on my phone. That's something I have to deal with. But if we were starting to read more, get with our family and friends more, and everyone has the idea to turn their phones off or on airplane mode, put them away in another room so nobody can hear you. Same thing goes with getting rid of your smart TVs. All these things. Now, personally, me, I've never owned a smart TV, and I never will, based on what's going on right now. I have a TV in my room that I haven't used in 6 years. I don't miss it. A lot of things come down to discipline. So this is just an off-the-dome rant on how you can peacefully take revenge against the government and the corporations. They did not want to invest in our training and education. Personally, me, I don't mind working. What I do mind is working for poverty wages. Personally, me, I would love to get like 4 skills from school and always have something to rely on year round. Maybe I work for something for 3 months, swap jobs, go to this job number 2 for 3 months, job number 3 for another 3 months, job number 4 for the rest of the year. And then when the new year begins, you start all over again. That's what I would love to do. I would love to have multiple skills that I could rely on year round. So that no matter what happens, I should always have some form of employment. But unfortunately, education's too expensive, and I'm not willing to get student loans. So again, tough luck. Anyway, this is all I really have to say for the day. You guys let me know what you think down below, and I'm out.